This week, PAPI structures are destroyed en masse in regions retaken by the Imperium. Ex-legacy coalition alliances find new homes, and two coalitions make some notable additions to their ranks. The beacon most certainly provides in catch. Snuffed Out and Winter Coalition find another reason for an all-out cap fight, and Nullsechnaya, Sholupen and dock workers continue to brawl, but someone else comes out to play. Hello pod people, I'm Frost, and this is your weekly EVE Online update. Welcome back. So the last week has been rather busy with all kinds of things happening, from structures getting blown up to bait beacons, to fights happening, to move ops, all kinds of different things. Obviously lots of alliances moving about as well. So before we jump into all of that, as always, I am going to do the announcement of the giveaway of my prize draw winners. So I have a winner back from the 2nd of August episode, who is The Sneaky Asian, who has won a skin. And then from last week's episode, we have Querious of The Bastion, who I interviewed a couple of months ago now, I think, maybe even more than that. So if you want to check out my interview with Querious from The Bastion, it is in the videos below. And then StevieK99, that is your YouTube name. You've not yet come forwards to claim your skin. So please get in touch with me through my Discord and I can sort that out for you. Okay, and then later on in the show, I'll have 2 more Abaddon skins to give away and you will find out what the keyword is. All right, so up into my box, we have the New Eden map in front of us, and we are going to start with Delve. So with Delve, that is now pretty much all now back to Goon Swarm. We talked about that last week. Everybody's now extracted from there. There's maybe a few stragglers left, but they're in a world of hurt because there's no structures for them anymore. So we'll have to see how that plays out. So before I come on to anything else, the one thing I want to say is last week I said that I didn't think it was a route. Vico Spriteg in the YouTube comments made a very valid point that it is a route because all these structures got left behind. And this is the issue when you start talking about PAPI, is that from Test Alliance, who had the vast majority of the structures there, then it was most definitely a route as they left so many structures behind. And as you'll see when I do the tally in a minute, that's a lot of structures. And I think the biggest issue here, and it's something that I need to apologize for, is it's not my place to actually make a comment on a narrative. And that is exactly what I did with that comment. The reality is I should have just explained the situation and then let you draw your own conclusions from that. So for that, I do apologize. I will try and not make that mistake again, as that's not what this show is about. And as we know, making comments on a narrative is a very, very slippery path. So, okay, let's go to structures. So first up, we in Delve alone in the last week, well, in fact, since August the 6th, there were a couple of structures that destroyed during last week's update, but I didn't include those as there was literally just 2 or 3 and they were kind of more important things to cover. So all of these are from August the 6th. So we have 7 Keepstars, 47 Fortizars, 12 Satios, that's on the kill board, but I believe there's another 2, and I know there's definitely 1 in T5ZI, maybe 2, that didn't show up on the kill board. So that's 14 Satios and 8 Asbels, all destroyed since August the 6th in Delve. So that's pretty nuts. Then we also had a Hell that died. I'm going to mention it just in passing. You will see there's a lot of stuff, super carriers and stuff that have died, and Titans and stuff this week. I just want to mention this out, that one of the Satios did not go down without a fight, and it looks like the Hell was actually kind of double bumped and ended up within range of the Satio, and the Satio got some revenge and took out one of the Hells. But when we come on to Querious later on, you'll see that they're bringing in plenty of firepower to take all of these structures out. So talking of Querious, let's jump to Querious. So first up, I have a little picture for you. Nice little picture that was sent to me there. So this is what I was talking about, the firepower. So you can see a whole bunch of Titans there shooting on a faction Fortizar. So as well as this faction Fortizar, 2 Keepstars were destroyed in Querious. These are all PAPI, of course, the same with the numbers that I mentioned previously. 17 Fortizars and 6 Asbels. And hence why I got to reuse the thumbnail from I can't even remember what it was. I think it was November last year when all the structures were being destroyed in the opposite direction. So I got to recycle the thumbnail there. So Niall was very happy with that. So what do we know with Querious? So what's actually happening in Querious as well is I want to talk about 2 particular alliances. So let me jump into Querious quickly. Let me go to my Querious map and bring out my pen. Make sure my pen is working. Okay, so we had Severance, and Severance were, oops, let's start that again. Severance were kind of down here, and they were in Legacy Coalition. And then we had Sentinel Dawn, who I think were up here, and then Brave had the rest. So as you can see, by the way, that all of these iHubs are slowly but surely getting flipped back to Imperium control. And we now see Siberian Squad as well settling in there in the east, and they have now got themselves a new home. So anyway, let's talk about Severance. The Severance, which is the one rounded in pink there, Severance have now joined Fire Coalition. And that's actually kind of important because we will talk about Celestial Empire in a minute. But if I remember correctly, Severance are mostly US time zone, and that has been the weakest time zone for Fire Coalition for quite a while. So those numbers will definitely help boost up Fire Coalition. So there you go. So that's one of the legacy coalitions that is moving. Now Sentinel Dawn, which is the one that's rounded in blue, that was their old territory, who were born out of the ashes of Requiem Eternal, I think, if I remember correctly. Looks like they're going to be folding in, this is what I understand anyway, looks like they're going to be folding into Brave. And if you remember, I mentioned last week that Brave are going to move up to Geminate for a temporary period. It looks like Brave are going to fold in, not Brave, sorry, Sentinel Dawn are going to fold in with them whilst for the period that Brave are in Geminate. Once Brave then move on to somewhere else, and if they start taking south, then Sentinel Dawn will most likely break away again, recreate its alliance, and then do as it did here in Querious and take out a constellation in the same area as Brave and work with Brave, but have their kind of own culture and command structure. So there you go. So that's kind of what's happening with Querious. Then I'm going to need to mention Fountain. So we're going to jump over to Fountain, and what's happened here, as you can see, well, the initiative are now firmly implanted there. We've still got UMAD up the north, which were kind of a PAPI legacy coalition, if I remember correctly. I'm not quite sure what's going on with those guys. I don't have any contacts there. So if anybody from UMAD wants to get in touch with me and talk to me on Discord through my DMs, that would be absolutely awesome. So Celestial Empire used to be in this region here. There we go. And Celestial Empire actually are moving out, and they are also going to join Fire Coalition. And also Lollipop Monopoly. Lollipop Monopoly, if you remember, I think the first appeared in Immensia, got kicked out, joined up with Celestial Empire, kind of made sort of camps with them. And it looks like both of those alliances are moving together and joining Fire. Now, once again, I think Celestial Empire is US time zone. So this is what I mean by Fire Coalition, kind of really bolstering up their US time zone and getting a number of alliances to join them. So that's going to prove quite interesting. Now, the other thing as well to mention with Celestial Empire is they actually moved out in a very organized manner, and they were able to sell their structures to the initiative, and apparently the initiative were very helpful with that. And so therefore that was good for member morale from Celestial Empire's point of view, that basically all of their members and everything got money for their structures, and so therefore they kind of got a nice clean move off out of Fountain. Whether they got through the rest of the route in one piece, that's another matter, but at least they were able to leave Fountain in a good way. So there you go. Also, the other thing as well to mention with regards to Celestial Empire joining Fire, I Aim to Misbehave and Cauldron of Ecstasy are going to be merging into Celestial Empire. Now, I Aim to Misbehave, I actually mentioned the other week in this particular fight that was taking place in Placid, right here. And they used to work a lot with ISK Enterprises and the Potato Alliance. And as I understand, ISK Enterprises have said no, they don't want to have anything to do with big blocks. So they are not going with I Aim to Misbehave. And the Potato Alliance, I don't know. I know the Potato Alliance are pretty close to ISK, so I'd assume that they're going to stay together, but we'll have to see how that kind of plays out. So there you go. So that's some more moves that are happening. Then I'm going to go back to my map, and we are going to go over to period basis. So as you can see now, the Imperium continue to reclaim their territories. Last week we talked about Warped Intentions. So Warped Intentions, I said, they kind of got left behind by Test to kind of find their own way out, or by Legacy Coalition to find their own way out. It looks like that they are going to fold and fold completely into Brave. Now, I actually checked, and at the moment, that's not the case. At the moment, you can see that most of their corps, most of their members are still in Warped Intentions. So I will keep an eye on that to confirm that for certain. But that it does seem to be the word that's going out at the moment, that Warped Intentions will be no more, and all of the pilots will go into Brave. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. Also, from the point of view of period basis, a couple of structures. I need to mention in Fountain as well, 2 PAPI Fortizars, one Asbel were destroyed up in Fountain, and then in period basis, 2 PAPI Satios were destroyed. Okay, then we are going to go on to Paragon Soul quickly. Now with Paragon Soul, what I want to point out here is that this is PIBC territory. So if you remember, PIBC is now Army of Mango and Evictus, with Vindictive folding into either Army of Mango or Evictus. And that is the PIBC. And I have some more news on the PIBC for you in a minute when we come to Esoteria. So let me bring up Esoteria. And as you can see, this is kind of very much implanted with AOM and IOU, which is Evictus. Now, this is the big news that essentially PIBC is going to be joining Wrecking Crew. So PIBC is going to be part of Wrecking Crew Coalition. Now this creates an interesting situation, because if I go back to my universe map, so we know that PIBC, aka Army of Mango, are in, I think, are they in Tenerife as well? I think they're in Tenerife, right? Have they got anything? Yeah, they've got a little chunk up here. So Army of Mango got a chunk in Tenerife. And then after that, if we go back to my universe map, so they've got a bit of Tenerife, they're in Omis, Fethabolis, and Esoteria. Now, they are joining Wrecking Crew, and Wrecking Crew are in Providence and Catch. But previously to this, PIBC were blue to Fire Coalition being in these regions here and kind of nibbling into Tenerife as well. And I think they've also got some territory in Imencio as well. There you go, that's a pair of scissors, I think. If I make, there you go, aligned it. You know, I'm going to scratch that out, that's getting rude. Okay, so where was I? So the main thing I want to come up with here is that Fire Coalition were blue to PIBC. Now, they're not to Wrecking Crew. Wrecking Crew have been constantly harassing into Fire Coalition space. So Fire Coalition are resetting PIBC and vice versa. So we can expect to see some conflicts happening all around these kind of borders, around this kind of area. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So I'm still laughing for my doodles that went horribly wrong. So there we go. Okay, then I tried to make it into something decent, honestly. Then obviously the other thing to bear in mind is what is the situation with PIBC and Imperium, or PIBC now and Wrecking Crew and Imperium. So they've kind of been left to their own devices, and I think that's going to continue. We'll have to see. But obviously Wrecking Crew did a lot of damage to Legacy Coalition structures, and also to Brave, as Brave were moving out of Catch into Querious. And so that was very much in the best interest of the Imperium. And I think what we'll see is probably some like non-invasion pacts or something along those lines happening between Wrecking Crew and Imperium. Obviously things are much easier for PIBC, because PIBC were primarily associated to PAPI. Now they're in Wrecking Crew, they've kind of lost that badge, so that will hopefully help with their kind of negotiations with the Imperium. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to Catch. So the first thing to mention with Catch is that there was an iHub that needed to be flipped that was kind of very important, which was in U-QVWD. And U-QVWD was a jump point for the move ops for most of the PAPI coalitions. And there was actually a meme, which I have right here, which is going to explain the situation. So we have UQ-PWD and U-QWVD. And if I go back to my map and highlight my pen again, let's get my pen up, there we go. So that is U-QVWD, which is where the jump point was, or the midpoint for the move ups. But then up here, we have UQ-PWD. So you have U-Q and UQ-, and that belongs to Dreadbomb. And Dreadbomb had the foresight to put up a Sino beacon and make it public. And they did this on, I think, Tuesday the 10th. And as we can see from the kill board, if I can remember where I've got it, we can see here, so Basically, there are 5 pages of losses here. So it just goes on. And these are pilots that were jumping to the bait beacon instead of to the proper move ops Sino, which was on a safe Keepstar. And it goes on for 5 pages. And I actually have some footage of this. As you can see here, this I actually managed to get a tune into the system just as a hell jumped in. And so let me see if I can find the list. So obviously, as soon as this came up, Tess actually sent a Union fleet there in early UTC on Wednesday the 11th to try and take it out, but they didn't have the numbers. And it stayed up for the duration of the week. And in the duration of this week, we had, let's see, 2 Morrises, 4 Naglafars, 5 Revelations, 7 Thanatoses, 4 Nidhoggers, 1 Archon, 1 Chimera, 1 Apostle, 2 List, 6 Rorquals, 3 Arcs, 2 Elves, and 1 Ragnarok, which comes to a total of 3 Jump Freighters, 6 Rorquals, 11 Dreads, 13 Carriers, 3 Faxes, 2 Super Carriers, and 1 Titan, all dying to this bait beacon. There are also 2 Redeemers and a Panther, but I don't know whether those were in a suitcase. In other words, whether they actually jumped in of their own accord or dropped out of the ships. Because the thing to remember is, as well as all of these capital and super capital losses, most of these ships were carrying other ships as they were on a move up. So a whole bunch of subcaps dropped as well, and they were either scooped up by Dread Bomb or destroyed. So yes, that was quite the bloodbath, and that was probably the highest cost of this move up out of anything that actually happened, was this bait beacon. And the bait beacon's still up as well, and the lesson here is do not jump from your capacitor wheel. Always add your Sino and from your MOTD, add them to your watch list and jump from there, or jump straight from the fleet window. So lessons to be learnt, and this has been happening regularly in bait beacons. If you remember, we had the one in AIJ or AJA in Delft that was fairly successful as well. So bait beacons have been a thing, and it looks like pilots will continue to die to that. So right, now we're going to go to our giveaway. So as always, I have giveaways, 2 skins to give away, and the way the competition works is you have to make a comment below in the YouTube comments with the keyword that I give you. So I think the keyword I am going to use this week, and I'm going to use my little spy penguin here. I don't know if you can see it. The keyword is fleet. All right, from his little badge, which we'll come on to in a minute. So fleet is the keyword. So you need to make up a sentence with the word fleet in the YouTube comments. And the cutoff is 1800 UTC on Friday the 20th of August. So get your comment in before then. I will then do the prize draw, and then I will then reply to you in the YouTube comments that you have won. You can then contact me on the Discord, and you can claim your Abaddon skin. All right, so other thing I need to mention is last weekend I was at Eve-NT Nottingham. I got to meet some awesome pod people, including Yintan, amongst others, and Sutonia was there, and then a whole bunch of the Eve-NT team, which I had a really good conversation with. Foxholers were there as well, in quite good numbers. So a whole bunch of peeps, and what I have done now is in the Discord, I'm creating a new section. I haven't given it a name yet, but by the time this video comes out, it'll either be called Alt Space, as an alternative space, because we're not in New Eden space, or Eve Meets, if we're going to be really boring. And basically, you can post your pics there of any kind of Eve-NT event that you've been to, either recently or in the past, and then I can use the wonderful Discord threads that have now been added to Discord and hopefully categorize them. So if you add pics, make sure you mention where they're from. If you know the people that are in the picture, then mention them as well. And hopefully we'll build up a nice big library of Eve-NT Eve events, should I say, that have taken place all around the world. So yeah, come along to my Discord and contribute to that, and that'll be a wonderful archive to have, I think. Okay, back to the news. So we are now going to go over to Immensia. The only things I want to mention with Immensia is I mentioned in Catch that there was an iHub that needed to be flipped. There was another one as well, which was in DY-P7Q, which was also on the evac route for the PAPI alliances that were like PanFam, Legacy, some of the Legacy Coalition, and Fire, and so forth, all had to go through this route. And so this iHub needed to be flipped. It got flipped in the meantime as well. There was a Sino jammer in there that got destroyed. And there was a Fortizar that belonged to Deepwater Hooligans in GXK-78, which was also destroyed primarily because it made quite a good staging to interfere with the move-up. So that was destroyed as well. Then with Impasse, we're going to mention very quickly a couple of things. The first thing is there was a Keepstar that was in its final timer. So if you remember last week, we had the 6E-MO or 6E-MOW Keepstar that was destroyed. There was one in another Requiem Eternal one in IRE-98. Unfortunately, it was not destroyed because Pandemic Horde and NC Dot, I believe. Have I got the battle report? Yeah, here we go. If I have a quick look, we can, no, that's the wrong one. Oh no, that's the right one. Is it? I'm looking at the wrong kill board here, I think. No, Keepstar, there it is. There we go, the Keepstar is there. So a little blonde moment for me as always every week. What happened, Northern Coalition and Pandemic Horde showed up and were able to bring enough DPS to stop the fleets that were attacking the Keepstar, which were all sub-caps, from being able to maintain cap damage on the Keepstar, and the Keepstar repaired. So they're going to have to do all of that all over again. All right, so that covers Impasse. Yeah, and then Fethebolis, very quickly. I just need to talk about Fethebolis in the point of view of Invidia Gloria Comes. So if you remember, Invidia Gloria Comes were originally in one of these systems, and they kind of expanded like into this whole area up here. And then XIX came along and said no, and essentially evicted them. Now, Invidia Gloria Comes then kind of made camp with Red Menace Coalition, and I now know that they have now joined the Imperium. So they are a fully fledged member of the Imperium. They are now in the Imperium as a complete alliance, and I assume they will be taking Sov again. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how that plays out for them. So there you go. So as we know, they kind of said that, you know, once Test moved out and kind of left them behind, that they made it very clear that they didn't want to be associated with PAPI anymore, and the Imperium have kind of made good with them there and made them part of the Imperium. Okay, so now we come on to some fights, because this has all been talks about politics and Sov and all this kind of stuff. Let's talk about fights. So Fraternity and Snuffed Out, or to be precise, Winter Coalition and Snuffed Out, do like a fight. Now, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, they had a fight in Lone, I think it was in Lone Trek, and they basically fought over a POCO. And this fight turned out to be an 800 billion capital escalation. Well, fighting over POCOs is totally last week. Now they're fighting over Asbel armor timers. And I'm going to see if I can find the right battle report. Here it is. And so this time, 800 billion, we've now gone up to 927 billion over an Asbel armor timer. And Titans died, and there was a big fight. So I'm going to try and cover it as best I can. I don't have all the details, but I can give you a pretty good idea of what happened. So Snuffed Out brought some Tempest Fleet issues to reinforce the armor timer on the Asbel. Fraternity responded. They brought some Munins and a Retribution Fleet and some Booshers. They then managed to boosh some of the Tempest Fleet issues and split them. So Snuffed Out escalated with some Dreads. Fraternity escalated with some Dreads. Snuffed Out escalated with more Dreads. And at this point, Fraternity dropped the Super Tits. That's the name for super carriers and Titans, if you're not familiar with Fraternity lingo. So they dropped Supers and Titans, and they dropped a lot of them, as you can see here. These are all Titans down the left-hand side. And then we eventually have a whole bunch of super carriers, which they, as you can see, go down here, and more super carriers and more super carriers. And in fact, I have to expand it now. More super carriers, and then we get into the Dreads, and lots of Dreads were last dropped. And on this side, if we expand, you can see that Snuffed Out love their Dreads. A lot of Dreads were dropped. There's a big list. You can see I'm scrolling down. There we go. And then there we go. We get to the Apostles. So then they started trading. Now, from the amount of Dreads that you see on the right-hand side here, they had so much firepower, they were able to start taking out these Titans. So it started off with 2 Hells. So 2 Fraternity Hells went down, then 3 Titans, first of all an Erebus, then an Avatar, then a Ragnarok, until finally the trading got to the point where they were able to start tanking the amount of damage incoming from the Dreadnoughts. Then things started to flip the other way, and Fraternity were managing to pin down the Dreads and were starting to kill a lot of Dreads. And Snuffed Out was starting to end up in a bit of a tricky situation. And in the middle of all of this as well, Winter Coalition brought an additional Serb fleet and a Gila fleet, so they got involved as well. I think that was literally triggered, and Blades of Grass and more fraternity members kind of dropped in there, as well as Querious Alliance. And then obviously we've got these revelations from Snuffed Out that are trapped. Then the initiatives show up in Kikimoras and help Snuffed Out to clear the tackle, which enabled Snuffed Out to extract. So they managed to kind of moonwalk out with 100 billion of ISK of loot apparently, and then the rest of the field was then cleaned up by Winter Coalition. End result is on the Snuffed Out side, we had 71 Dreads and 6 Apostles lost by Snuffed Out, and then on the Winter Coalition side, we had 3 Titans, 2 Supers, and 14 Dreads. So for a total loss, like I said, of 924 billion ISK. So there you go. So yeah, lots of toys flying around there. But that isn't the only capital fight that we had this week. We had another one, and this is all happening down in Liaison. So let me go back to my universe map, and we go to Liaison, and it's all based around down the bottom of the map here in Shurasana. So Shurasana is where Nullsechnaya Sholupen have deployed, and for the last few weeks, they've been attacking dock workers and no forks given, attacking their structures and creating content for themselves. And but what has happened now is that Dreadbomb has started assisting dock workers and no forks given. And we have a battle report here, and you could see that previously Nullsechnaya Sholupen were kind of outnumbering dock workers and no forks given. Sorry, that was a bad highlight on my part. But now we also, I'm really not on it with the pen today, am I? So, okay, let me just go really slowly around here. There we go. So you can see that Dreadbomb helps sway the numbers in the other direction. And that makes a big difference. So Nullsechnaya Sholupen lost quite a bit here in this fight. I think this fight was over, let me see if I can find out what it was. It was on a final timer on an Astra House. I think it was originally a Fortizar timer, and then it moved to a final timer on an Astra House. And I actually have a video here. So once again, as always with the videos, I link them in the description below. So please go and watch them. Please go and support these content creators. And this video will show you exactly kind of what happened. But the end result is that the fight took place. But this wasn't the big fight. This was kind of the preamble to another fight that took place. And this was actually a bait situation. So if I move on to that one, this one took place in Shurasana. So if we go back to our map, what actually happened here is that NSH, Nullsechnaya Sholupen, were heading out from Shurasana, and they had a cap fleet of 29 Dreads, 25 Carriers, and 7 Faxes. And they jumped into Marmalot, into every shore, so they could extend their jump range. So they were going on some kind of an op. Now, I don't know whether this op played out or not, but they then jumped back. And so they siloed back to Marmalot, and then they had to get back into Shurasana to get back to their staging Fortizar. And at this point, Dreadbomb jumped in with a bunch of Macarials, and these were, as I understand, tackle Macarials. And they tackled the Cat fleet, and from there, things escalated. And what happened is that Dreadbomb, along with no forks given, basically attacked all of the capitals that were on the Nullsechnaya Sholupen side. And I have a video here once again. This one's got commentary. I think it's got the FC commentary over the tops as well, so it's got comms. You will find that in the link below. So what happened is the Macarials tackled the Nullsechnaya Sholupen fleet, Dreadbomb, and then no forks given, then dropped their own individual fleets and then attacked. So even though this is from the dock worker perspective, you can see that in the red on the side here, the Dreadbomb is still actually set red to them. So this is clearly a temporary alliance. But these standings is something that created an issue. And I can demonstrate this because I can go back, and I'm going to pause this here quickly and go back. That one of the things that died was a Dagon or Dagon. Now, I don't know how you pronounce that, whether it's Dagon or Dagon. I would like to think that it's Dagon, so like it's like Brad Pitt in Snatch, it's like me Dagon. So a Dagon is an unusual ship, so it's the Blood Raiders fax. But if you actually look at the fitting of it, you will see that there's some unusual things. Also, by the way, it's the only Dagon that has died, to my knowledge, is the only one on the kill board. So this ship, as you can see, does not have on the low slots a siege module, which you would expect to have if you were using it in the same way as an apostle. And the reason why is that the Blood Raiders fact gets loads of bonuses to Nosferatus. So it gets a 30% bonus to energy drain amount, optimal range, and fall off. It also has a 90% reduction in CPU requirement for the Gnosis. So for the energy Nosferatus. So as a consequence of that, it is normally used, in fact, it has got a siege module on it. Has it got a siege? Yeah, it's got a triage module. So I'm really surprised on that because normally it's not used with that. And it's used purely as basically a capital Balgon. So interesting there, but it died. But that's not the rest of the story for this, because if I go back to my related kills, you'll see here that the Dagon belongs to, see what I mean by my pen work today is just awful, belongs to Minor Profanity. But Minor Profanity, the pilot, it actually is an Sholupen pilot, and Sholupen is a corp of dock workers. And what actually happened was that Dreadbomb were not aware that this Minor Profanity should have been on the same side as dock workers and Dreadbomb. And because there were so many dreads, it got insta-blacked before dock workers were able to tell Dreadbomb not to shoot it. So that was actually an AWOX. And so that ship should actually be on the other side of the kill board. And we'll just let it quickly update. There we go. Thank you, Squiz. And there we go. So that's on that side. And so the final tally was basically 275 billion lost to Nullsechnaya Sholupen versus 100 billion lost to dock workers and Dreadbomb. But yeah, that was a big kind of escalation in terms of the fights that they've had. There's been nothing quite on this scale before, and it'll be interesting to see whether that continues or not. So there you go. So proper little story time on that one. Then finally, we're just going to kind of wrap up with a couple of things. I want to point out some artwork from Moon Zubo. So he did this artwork for the Imperium. I understand he did it as a bet because he was actually doing some PAPI kind of stuff before. But I really wanted to show his work because I love all this kind of propaganda artwork, and it's kind of really clean, kind of modern graphic design look to it. And he actually has a page on DeviantArt, and I will link that below. And you'll see he's kind of done all kinds of other stuff as well. And he actually started doing these kind of really cool looking tarot cards for the Keepstars in Delve. And obviously this is the M2-XFE one. So yeah, go and take a look at his work. I think he takes commissions as well. So if you want some propaganda artwork done in his style, then you can get in touch with Monzubo and ask him for that. Then I have another video that I want to just mention as well. Katya Say was not the only person that traveled all the way around New Eden. Ricio Tifo did as well. And he actually documented his by taking screen grabs of all the regions that he visited and then put it into a time-lapse video, and then also included, as the time-lapse progresses, various kind of memorable events that happened throughout New Eden during his travels. So once again, link in the description for that. And I think I'm pretty much there. Yes, I think I'm pretty much there. So there we go. Thank you for watching as always. Don't forget to subscribe, like, hit the bell icon for notifications. You know how that all works by now. Do mention me in your Corp Discord and your Alliance Discord, and don't forget to enter the prize draw in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching, and until the next one. All right, bye.